I bought a rare 30-year-old Ford F-150 with a weird bed. Today, let's talk about it. This is my 1992 Ford F-150 Flareside. Now, 92 was the first year of the 9th generation F-150, but the underpinnings are kind of the same since the 1980s. So new, but not all that new. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. These flared sides, or Flareside. Why would anybody want this? It actually makes the bed slightly less useful. But you got to think back to the 90s. This was the start of people using trucks for things that weren't all really truck things. This was all about style. This was an appearance package. And yeah, it looks pretty cool. I didn't think it looked that cool back in the day. I thought it was sort of like baby boomer nostalgia for the trucks of the 40s and the 50s. But today, I actually kind of really appreciate it. The marketing of the truck had images of windsurfing and volleyball, no work sites, lumber, or gravel in sight. It was marketed as a, quote, personal truck. The tagline was, a truck with a personality as unique as yours. This was really kind of the start of trucks as lifestyle vehicles. People buying trucks when they didn't really need a truck. This is pretty common today, but wasn't so much back then. So this Flareside was the perfect embodiment of form over function. If you bought a Flareside, you might tow your jet skis to the lake once every few years, but mostly you just wanted to look cool. But let me take a step back here. I actually really love this truck. Back in the day when I was a kid, yeah, I thought this was kind of cringe, but now that I'm older, I have nostalgia from the things from the 80s and 90s, and it's really not that different from people in the 90s having nostalgia for vehicles from the 40s and 50s. So yeah, it's kind of like nostalgia for a vehicle that was designed with nostalgia in it. It's meta nostalgia, nostalgia inception. And you may not even remember that Ford made a truck with a flared bed. These Flaresides were pretty rare back in the day. They didn't make that many of them. They were more expensive than the regular F-150. And these super cab ones, they're even more rare. And like many vehicles from this era, F-150s were often treated as disposable utility vehicles and got driven into the ground and eventually sent to the crusher. So that's why I was so excited when I found this one for sale. I absolutely had to have it. So yeah, in terms of functionality, this Flareside bed is slightly narrower and slightly less useful than the non-Flareside trucks, but I guess you don't have those pesky wheel arches in the way, so there's something. So in terms of style, this is slightly more rounded than the previous generation trucks, especially in the front. This is where most of the changes happened from the 8th gen. You've got aerodynamic headlights, slightly more rounded grille and bumper. And this truck has been painted in the original silver color, which I like. It looks awesome. It's got a spray-in bed liner, aftermarket wheels, which I like. I wasn't a huge fan of the original wheels. They're all chrome, very 90s, not my favorite. This truck has just about 150,000 miles on the clock, and overall, it's in pretty amazing shape. The paint looks great, the grille looks great, the interior was recently redone and looks flawless. So I was super excited when I found this truck. Let's go take it for a drive. Aside from the weird bed, this is essentially an F-150 XLT, which was the top trim. Under the hood, we've got the optional 5.8 liter V8, making 210 horsepower and 315 pound-feet of torque, I think. The 4.9 liter inline six was standard, and you could also get a 5 liter V8. This V8's got a simple push rod design. It's easy to work on, parts are readily available. It's pretty old school, but it does have fuel injection, which was kind of a big deal in the early 90s. Yeah, most new cars were fuel injected in the United States by then, but there were still quite a few carbureted cars on the road. A 5-speed manual was the standard transmission, and you can see right here, I've got the 4-speed automatic. And even though this truck has the top spec motor, it's not all that quick by today's standards, but it was pretty decent for 92. If you actually want to win some drag races and it's all about speed for you, go get a Lightning, not this one. So the suspension is a twin traction beam suspension setup with coil springs in the front and leaf springs in the back, and it actually rides pretty nice for a truck of this era. This one's got rear-wheel drive, but push-button shift on the fly four-wheel drive was available. When you opted for four-wheel drive, auto-locking hubs were standard, but you could actually get manual ones as an option. A limited slip diff was also an option. Even back then, Ford gave you a lot of choices. And you could tow up to 8,600 pounds when properly equipped, according to the brochure that I was looking at, which was pretty impressive for the era, but I don't know how much towing I want to do with my 30-year-old truck. You could do it, but this is a Flareside. Come on, it's not meant to work, it's meant for just looking cool. Now, I don't really want to talk about fuel economy because, no, it's not that great. 12 miles per gallon city, 17 in the highway as rated by the EPA. My real world fuel economy is, I don't want to know, just fill the tanks and pray. And yes, you heard me right, I said tanks because there are two for a total of 34.7 gallons of fuel. Why? Because you're probably gonna need it. Now, this first year of the 9th generation had a brand new interior. It has more flowing lines. It's a simple, clean design. It was marketed as being more car-like than the predecessor. The leather seats look great. They were recently refinished. The dash pad was refinished. This truck also has power windows, locks, a power driver's seat. And then right here, check this out. This truck has smoker windows, which is pretty cool. That's a very kind of 70s and 80s feature. It's kind of funny to see it on a 90s truck. One of the things I really like about trucks from this era is the great visibility. Even out the back, you can actually see out of this really well. Now the back seat, yeah, there is a back seat back there, but I wouldn't really want to sit back there. Just reserve it for kids or people you just don't like at all. All right, so what did all of this cost you back in the day? A 9th gen F-150 from 92 would have cost anywhere from 13 grand to 17 grand average, which is about 26 to 34 today. They could even go higher than that. And the Flaresides, especially the super cabs, were even more than that. And what do these go for today? A 9th gen could run you anywhere from $500 for a completely garbage example to over 20 grand for a really low mile Flareside. So yeah, these kind of have a wide range of values. So these 9th generation F-150s are fantastic, but even with the insane numbers in which these were produced, finding a clean one is getting more difficult by the day. So I've owned this Flareside for a few months now, and I really appreciate how it's shifted my perspective on modern trucks. In today's world of insanely expensive luxury pickup trucks, spending time in an honest-to-goodness simple and uncomplicated truck is refreshing. Yes, you do have to dial your brain back to 1992, back to a time when leather seats in a pickup truck was kind of foreign to a lot of people. But the Flareside sort of marked a change in thinking for pickup trucks. This is when lifestyle trucks really started to become a thing. And these 9th gen trucks are really fantastic, dependable vehicles. They're new enough to have modern features like fuel injection, and they're not too precious to actually just use them as trucks, but they're old enough where they're simple and cheap to maintain, and they're not overstyled like so many newer vehicles on the road today. And this Flareside is truly a slice of history. A throwback to a vehicle that was sort of a throwback itself during its day. It was the start of a trend, for better or for worse, of pickup trucks as a urban lifestyle statement. To buy something with the idea that maybe, just maybe, one day you'll tow those jet skis to the lake. You probably never will, but it doesn't matter. You'll still look totally rad driving around in this flared beast. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider becoming a subscriber and hitting that bell icon so you can get notified of all my new car reviews, used car reviews, and videos on vehicles like my Flareside. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.
Ford designed a special truck for night people. So, of course, sports fans wanted one too. Now Ford introduces its new Flareside for yet another side. Don't these people ever rest? The best ever rest! With a full-size night, sport, and bold new Flareside, Ford takes all kinds in style. How do you change the best-built full-size pickup in America? You painstakingly reshape the exterior until it's more refined. Make the instrument panel more user-friendly. The available power controls easier to reach. And you redesign the interior for unexpected comfort.
The best never rests.